I'm just carrying on exploring the concept or the ideas around mastering our mind, the journey to inner freedom, which was the subject or the work we all did at a workshop recently. And thank you for your comment. Somebody said, our thoughts are powerful, and mastering them is tough. And I think the most important thing is, you're absolutely right, thoughts are very, very powerful. And of course, thoughts are very creative, and it is our mind that creates everything. But we're not our thoughts. And so it's not so much, mastering the mind is not so much about mastering the thoughts as recognizing that we're not our thoughts. And therefore it's finding the gaps between the thoughts, because the gaps between the thoughts, or the space from the thoughts, is the truth of who we are. Because the mind's job is to think, so obviously it will think. Now, the more we are able to master the mind, then we can choose the thoughts we think, and we can actually find the truth of who we are between the thoughts, the space between the thoughts, the gap, the place of stillness, the place of silence. And that's where the pure potential is, the space where everything comes from. So it's more about the awareness and getting in touch with our awareness at all times, the witnesser, the watcher, because the more we are in that space, there becomes that gap. We can kind of start to watch our thoughts. It's more about sitting quietly, and that doesn't necessarily mean sitting. It means being quiet inside. Now, practices and meditations and ways of discovering that are different for everybody. There are so many ways to stillness, but we are all still at the core of our being. So perhaps first it's important to recognize that there is stillness within us all. We are just uncovering what's already there. So we're not making anything happen. We're uncovering the place and discovering and uncovering. And now that can happen. Different things work for different people. Like for some people, sounds helps. So being in sound, in a sound bath with sound around, that can help. Sound is very healing and can access that still place. And there can be gaps where there is no thought. And for some people, chanting helps. We did a lot of chanting at the weekend. Silent meditations, just being with the breath or just sitting and watching. For some people, more dynamic meditations, more moving meditations. I always called my running a meditation on the move, and I can remember doing interval training and recognizing that was a space of stillness for me, because I was running fast and there was a complete space between any thought. And then when we can find that space, it becomes easier to really be conscious of the thoughts we're thinking, because so much is just coming from the subconscious mind. So therefore there's so much that is just programmed, and therefore even sometimes people aren't aware they're thinking, because they kind of zone out, and that isn't having no thought. That often is just the subconscious has taken over and we're just on a program. And that happens because when we're little, the 0 to 7 years is very much the time of conditioning, because children are in a state of theta. The awake state is beta, the relaxed kind of state where we're chilling more, just being at ease, is the alpha state. The state then that's hypnotic state and just before sleep state or hypnosis is that state of theta, and then delta is our sleep state. But theta is the state that children are in from 0 to 7, and so it's very available space for conditioning. Well, they get very conditioned, and they get conditioned with, you know, all these thoughts which and ideas and beliefs and the way things are and who they are and what they're good at and not good at. Self-concepts get formed where really the more we don't have a self-concept, the more we are open to whatever is and could be, the more free we are. But that early stage, that theta state, often so much conditioning is set up then, and so many thoughts that we don't really know what our true thoughts are. So really unraveling and going back to our true self and discovering and uncovering all of the conditioning and all of the beliefs and questioning, are these really mine, comes from becoming more still and being able to listen and watch and witness what comes out of our mouth, witness what we're saying on a day-by-day basis, witness what we're thinking, because then we can uncover more the conditionings and the thoughts that are just going on a loop and are just in a cycle, because thoughts are powerful, thoughts are creative. So if we're not conscious of them and they're just going around in a loop, then we're living out from that paradigm, and we're living out loops and loops of behavior. And either some of the beliefs can be very expansive, but they still might not be true for us. The way we need to go in life, what's expected of us, and all of that isn't necessarily our truth. So it is about at least having an intention to start to find the silence, the blue sky. I was saying in the workshop that if we are, stillness is the blue sky, and then all of the thoughts that are zooming along are all the things that come across blue skies, whether they're clouds or planes or whatever else goes on, birds, things that go across, helicopters, air balloons, all sorts of things go across blue skies, don't they? But it is that silence that is the truth of who we are, is the blue sky. And if we can start to even get moments of space, and we can find that in the breath. Sometimes you breathe in, you breathe out, and there's space. In that space is everything that is possible, everything is pure potential. And yet we tend to go on the route of our habitual thoughts. So it's spaces between the thoughts that means that we start to master the mind, start to choose what thoughts we think. And that's where training the brain is part of it, of course. Even having mantras that bring us back to stopping our brain just going off. So we were at the weekend, we were chanting the Buddhist chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which is the meditation on the Lotus Sutra, which is said to have been given by the Buddha to take people beyond the suffering of the samsara, which is the polarity of life, you know, the good, bad, joy, sorrow, takes you beyond that duality into that silence. So sometimes just having that chant as something that you say in your head, rather than letting the thoughts run away. I used to do that when I was I'm still an athlete, but an athlete that doesn't train like I used to. I was an international athlete, so I trained a lot, you know, for many years, up to 100 miles a week, 70 to 100 miles a week in, week out. And I lived in the UK, which meant I went through UK winters, which meant, and also I've always worked as well. So I used to have my alarm go off at 5 a.m. and hear rain and darkness. And I used to meet people at 6 or go on my own at 6. So I'd get up and do exercises first and have a cup of coffee and all of that. But I used to, immediately I woke up, start saying Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. It used to propel me out of bed and into the bathroom and into the kitchen to make my coffee, so that I didn't think, because you can probably guess what kind of thoughts I'd have thought, given that there was pouring rain and dark and cold outside. And I didn't want to think any thoughts that would stop me from what I, at my core level, my true essence, myself wanted to do, which was to be a runner, and I was a competitive runner, and I enjoyed competing at top level, and to compete at top level I needed to train a lot. So I didn't let any of the negative thoughts enter. I just used to chant the mantra. So it can help to have something. I suggest to my clients often the mantra, I am where I am, it's okay. I am where I am, it's okay. And I am who I am, it's enough. I am who I am, it's enough. If you want English words, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo could be a nice one. So that at least the mind's got something to do. And then you've got the chance to keep dropping into that space and keep finding that that emptiness, which is obviously so full. Once we really get into that emptiness within us, then we are full up, and we have that possibility to create new thoughts. And to, of course, the conscious mind feeds the subconscious mind. That's what creates the patterns. And of course, they take lots of time to create. Like when we were little, we learned to talk. It took a long time. All the things we've learned to do to take time. Learning to drive, learning to ride a bike, learning to walk, learning maths and times tables, and all the things that we learned. We took time, and it was by rote, over and over. So that also was happening with the conditioning about who we were, what our beliefs were, what the culture thought, what the society thought, what education was. But we have to recognize that if we're going to shift and change our life, and it's coming from thought, we need to master it and think different thoughts. So that's why the mantras can help. And then we start to find that becomes a natural thing. That one of my clients said recently that she was walking along, and busy day ahead, lots of things to work out, and suddenly unbidden into her head came, I am where I am, it's okay, I'll figure it out, because she's been practicing it so much. You just relax, not rather than the mind going off and at a tangent and just ruling us. So it's ongoing practice. It does take practice. Everything takes practice. It's good we practice in the right direction, because Periandros, the Greek philosopher, said practice, practice, practice. Everything can be achieved with practice. But then there's another quote that's practice makes permanent. So if we've been practicing thoughts that aren't serving us, then it takes a while to make other thoughts permanent. So practice and stillness and noticing the gaps between the thoughts, and always being kind to yourself. We never want to be disappointed in this journey towards greater awareness and stillness. And actually I say journey inwards, because it's already there.